Today I'd like to talk about how to sing high notes without straining. I'm going to talk about what are the typical roadblocks that get in the way of us singing our high notes, and I'm going to show you what to do instead. So a little bit later in this video, we're going to do a vocal exercise together that we can do to reinforce or to learn the foundation of what is the kind of good placement that you want to have to sing your high notes with ease and without strain. All right, let's get into it. When it comes to high notes, this might not be true for everybody, but I think that it is true for the grand majority. The thing that gets in the way is fear and or anticipation. It's this idea that high notes are this big thing, that it's something that's coming that we need to prepare for. And this results in a mental kind of stress, which translates into a physical stress. And as soon as your instrument, your physical instrument is getting stressed, and your mental instrument, because your brain is obviously feeding you what you need as well to sing, it's like this coordination between the muscles, the brain, everything. That is basically causing all of this friction, and it's making everything get tight, and it's hard to do. And this is something that I experienced personally when I was younger, when I was in my teens, when I was training. I always was very afraid of singing high notes. And I thought that I had to bring my chest voice up. This is the next thing I want to talk about. This is another thing that gets in the way, is you have all of this fear, you have all of this anxiety over the high note, and then you don't know that there are physical differences that you need to make. And so you try to bring that chest voice up, and then your voice ends up cracking or straining, or you end up feeling vocal fatigue. And that just accumulates the fear that you have about these high notes. It creates like this negative kind of reinforcement around the high notes. So one thing we're going to discuss as well is how to adjust everything so that you're not bringing your chest voice up. We're going to talk about that when we're doing the exercise. So you need to basically have a more kind of balanced, supported mix as you're going into your head voice, as you're transitioning over the passaggio. If you haven't seen my video on that, you can check it out. And then, of course, there's always the fundamental, which is breathing. Are you doing a deep diaphragmatic breath? Are you relaxed? Are you allowing your lungs to fill to capacity? And then how are you manipulating the air pressure? Because when you're singing lower notes, mi, me, ma, mo, mu, you're going to have a very different feeling when it comes to the pressure that you're emitting to pass the note, to flap those vocal cords. So you're going to have a different feeling down here. And you're also, this is the third thing, you're going to have a different feeling of resonance. Your resonance is going to be placed differently. Your vowels are going to be shaped slightly differently when you're lower down and when you're going high up. So for me, I think when I'm singing kind of in my chest voice, let's go down here. The resonance is kind of very forward. It's very straight. And as I'm going higher, that resonance kind of shifts up higher into my nose, even kind of between my eyebrows here. That's where I kind of feel like everything is shifting up. So as you're doing the exercise with me, I want you to feel your resonance kind of changing and shifting. And what we're going to do is we're going to focus on a vowel and a consonant that's going to help us to kind of transition that resonance in a way that's going to help you get to the high notes without stress. The last thing is that high notes, we think about high notes as if they need to be loud. We think like it needs to sound as loud in our heads as the lower notes do. But something happens as you're going higher, where it sounds less loud in your head than the low notes, but it doesn't mean that it's not projected loudly out there. So we have this kind of different kind of feedback, internal feedback when we're singing lower and when we're singing higher. So I don't want you to try to have a loud note. I want you to allow your voice to be very, very kind of light inside of your head. Start with that, and then you can actually build. Once you've figured out how to get those high notes without the strain and without the stress, then you can play around a little bit more with how you're projecting, using the diaphragm, using your support, using the air that you're pushing through, and you can kind of find a sweet spot where you're able to make these crescendos as you're going up. You can get louder if you need to, but in a very, very controlled way. So now we're just going to focus on accessing those high notes without stress. And then maybe in a later video, we can talk a little bit more about projecting those high notes a little bit louder. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go through an exercise together, and I don't even want us to go high yet. We're just going to focus on getting things set up well, posturing our instruments, breathing properly. So having your shoulders back, having your chest open, doing a little half yawn, feeling that little kind of pop down here below your ears, below this cavity here. And I want you to just focus on the resonance, feeling like this vibration in your mouth. Tell me where it is in the comments, actually. I'd be curious to know when we're in the chest voice, where you feel your resonance. And we're going to focus on getting the proper consonant and the proper vowel for this exercise before we take it higher. So here we're going to do a ni, but I want you to think of it like gnocchi, like that ng. Ni, 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 ni. And it's very kind of nasally. I want you to feel that, not like ni, 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 like you're kind of trying to annoy somebody. All right. And we're going to just take this low and we're going to go up kind of to the mid chest, around the passaggio. We'll stop there. Okay. So take a nice deep breath, relaxed, ready. Ni, ni, ni. It should be very clear, a very clear vowel. It should come out very, very kind of clean. Ni. And as we're going through this, I want you to do this kind of visualization, because we're going to use this visualization when we go higher. And I want you to imagine, not that you're going like up and down again, like this little pyramid shape. I want you to imagine that the exercise that we're doing, we are singing in a straight line. So it's like a little path. That's it. I don't want you to think about this change, this ladder. I want you to think about it as if it's a smooth, straight line and you're just coming to the end of the road and you're going to park your car. Okay. Here we're coming to the passaggio. This is a B, a C. C as in SI, and a B. Now here, you hear how it's heavy, how I just did it. This is where I'm going to want to start to get everything lighter. So I'm going to want to kind of start mixing my voice here, start to shift this resonance. And what I want to do here is to kind of replace a little half yawn. And I want to start a little bit lighter. So I'm allowing everything to lighten so that as I'm going to keep going higher, it's going to kind of stay buoyant and everything is going to lift, and we're going to shift the resonance towards our nose here. So you can hear how that sounds different than the first one I did if I'm doing it kind of heavier. Everything is so heavy that by the time I'm getting around my passaggio, that I'm going to be like, oh crap, what do I do? And that is the point, ladies and gentlemen, where we start to strain, where we start to continue to climb with everything heavy, and we're not mastering that transition through the passaggio. We're not really controlling things. We're just trying to bring something up with us rather than letting go of something. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the beginning of that. We're going to do those knees again because I want you guys to also be very warmed up as we're climbing up the scale here, okay? And keep those things in mind. I want you to think that you're just moving in a straight line. I want you to think about as we're coming around this area of the passaggio, and I'll let you know that we're going to lighten things and lift things and let them get buoyant. And I don't want us to overthink. I don't want to be anticipating that we're going up to this high note. This whole exercise here is a long road. We're going on a nice long drive and then we're coming back home. Okay? So we're going to come back down to A. And again, I want you to get that ni, 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 very nasal. Ni. You hear how it doesn't sound nasal when I add the vowel. I just want the consonant to be nasal. Ni, 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 ni. Ni. Now around here, I want us to start lightening and mixing our voices. So again, take a deep breath and take a little yawn. And try and get your resonance right here in your nose. And you can even move your hand like that if it helps you. We need energy here. I watched this in another video and I had never heard it put this way. I'm gonna credit the person below. But the idea is that as our notes go higher, it's a higher frequency vibration, so we need more energy. So make sure that you have that really good breath. And allow it to be light, okay? It's okay. It doesn't have to be loud. We just want to get it free. We don't want it to be tense. All right, we'll do this one again. A little bit tight there for me, but not really in my throat. It was just kind of like fuzzy. And that's okay. It might actually not sound so fuzzy. If it didn't feel tight, that's not so bad. But I'm gonna do it again with you. All right. I'll get everything nice and relaxed. And we're taking our little road trip and we're almost done. So that was nice and relaxed. It wasn't super, super loud, but it was relaxed and it wasn't tight and it wasn't strained. And so this is what I want you to focus on. You can just go up like I'm doing. So I'm just going up a major fifth and coming back down. And we're going all the way up to a high G. And then you can just kind of stay there. And then I want you to come back down here and see what it feels like to sing lower down in your chest voice. For me, it feels like there's more of a mix, actually. Like I've kind of brought some of the color from my head voice down into the chest voice. And so this is why it's also great to do these kinds of exercises where you're starting low, you're going high. You can do them on different vowels. I have a bunch. You can go check out my techniques playlist, and there are a bunch of vocal exercises that you can do. And really kind of warm up your instrument, warm up your voice, get it nice and stretched out. But the basics is that everything that you're doing, you want it to be well supported. You want your vowels to be very clean and your consonants as well to be really well positioned here to sing. And you want to also focus on your resonance. And if you're thinking about these three things, and releasing that tension here and releasing your abdominal tension and just allowing yourself to really take those full breaths that expand your belly and singing on that. And just over time, you're going to see that you're going to gain more flexibility. You're going to gain a bigger range, and you're going to be able to facilitate that transition through the passaggio with less tension over time. So it's a process. It's really a process. It's very similar to exercise. If you haven't exercised for many years, when you go back to the gym or when you go back to your yoga mat, you're going to feel like your body is like, whoa, okay, what are we doing here? And you have to like really posture yourself and do fewer reps and build up to where you want to be kind of all over again. But you have that foundation there. You have that knowledge. You know how to breathe. You know how to posture your body. It's the same thing with singing. So we want to focus on really those fundamentals and then just fine tuning them over time. And as our voices, as even our muscles, our vocal folds and our support muscles, as everything gets stronger again and more used to the training that we're doing, we're going to be able to do more. We're going to be able to work on our projection. We're going to be able to change the dynamic range of how we sing, but really focus first on that foundation of singing without tension, whether it's high, whether it's low, whether it's in the passaggio. So I hope that this video helped you. Let me know what you think of the exercise, and let me know if you have any particular questions about this, if you struggled with anything here, and if there's anything that you would like to see in a future video. Thank you so much.